NASA and SpaceX are constantly being compared. That much isn't news anymore. However, what people have begun to ponder on lately is what this constant comparison between NASA and SpaceX bodes for the future of space travel. Even more importantly, some wonder, are these entities allies or rivals? For millennia now, humans have inhabited planet Earth. You could say we pretty much know our way around by now. But even at that, there are still vast regions on this Earth we call home that are yet to be explored. For instance, do you know that we are yet to explore 80% of the world's oceans? That means that 80% of oceans in the world are untouched, unexplored, and unmapped. Nonetheless, whatever we don't know about the world in which we live, we know even much less about space. In fact, humans do not know up to 1% of what lies beyond Earth. However, the plan is to find out as much as we can, and two companies have been leading the course for years now, NASA and SpaceX. Let's take a short journey down history lane. NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, was founded in 1958 on the 1st of October by then-President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower founded the body within the promise that the activities carried out by the agency would be for the benefit of all humanity. A little over a decade after NASA was inaugurated, we got our first human on the moon. Now, one millennium later, a new entrant joins the quest for celestial glory, this time led by tech billionaire Elon Musk. Also well known for his giant strides in rewriting the automotive industry with his electric cars, Musk started up SpaceX with one clear vision, and that vision is to colonize Mars. On many occasions, Musk has made it clear that he believes that humans would have to evacuate Earth sooner or later. His idea? Colonize another planet so we can help to manage Earth resources for now, which are, by the way, fast running out. So, as is obvious, SpaceX and NASA share a common interest, which is space travel. Their goals, however, are light years apart. On one hand, we have NASA, whose ultimate goal is to explore space for the sake of broadening man's knowledge about the worlds that exist beyond our reach. SpaceX, on the other hand, seeks to equip humans with otherworldly resources, so we might be able to take flight one day and occupy another planet should Earth ever become an inhabitable option. Being a government body, NASA obviously has more flexibility than SpaceX, which is a private-owned company. The organization has access to taxpayer money, which they can budget with at varying proportions, depending on need. One of the most popular achievements NASA has to its credit is its International Space Station. NASA's International Space Station is a low Earth orbit space laboratory. This space station, where the astronauts and cosmonauts live, is located about 400 kilometers above Earth and travels at a speed about 7.66 kilometers per second. That is over 17,000 miles per hour. The International Space Station, which was launched in 1998, is so called because it happens to be a joint effort between America's NASA and Russian Roscosmos, Japanese JAXA, European ESA, and Canadian CSA. The aim of the multinational project was to increase research efforts, while effectively becoming the first Earth-orbiting station that also happens to be permanently manned. True to its vision to enlighten mankind about space, a third of NASA's budget currently goes to its science arm. The science arm is dedicated to studies in planetary science, Earth science, the laws of physics and astrophysics, as well as heliophysics, which is the study of the sun and the entire solar system as well. Other successes to NASA's credit include the launching of a pair of space probes, called Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. A space probe is like a robotic spacecraft. Now, rather than orbit Earth, space probes explore further into outer space, sometimes approaching the moon or landing on planetary bodies. These space probes were first launched in 1977, and at first were only able to reach Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. However, these probes have now been able to venture further into space. For instance, the 2012 Voyager 1 was able to venture into interstellar space, which refers to an area outside of the sun, where the hot winds coming from the sun interface with the colder, denser medium outside the heliosphere. Also, 6 years later, Voyager 2 broke new ground once again when it carried a high-tech instrument that would help scientists and researchers with newer types of measurements. Though Voyager 2 is over 10 billion miles away from us, scientists can still communicate with it. Traveling at the speed of light, information from the probe arrives to Earth in about 16 hours. In comparison, light from the sun takes 8 minutes to arrive on Earth. Now, following NASA's Artemis program, man should land on the moon once again by 2024. NASA will also be using information from its probe's journey in addition to countless experiments already conducted to push mankind's giant leap to Mars. The primary goal of America's space agency is to help man learn more about space and related matters. But NASA is also undertaking other projects with benefits that are much closer to home, and there are 3 of them. The first is a research project currently being conducted on air quality. In conjunction with the Environmental Protection Agency, NASA is working to measure the volume of smoke aerosols released during wildfires and how they are wreaking havoc on air quality. Secondly, there's also research being carried out on climate change. Gadgets known as airborne radar devices are currently studying the flow of glaciers, although the whole project is still in the learning phase. Now, this might not be an immediate solution to the problem of climate change. However, by getting a glimpse into what might happen to ice masses in the future, we could get a general time frame we can work with. This can then help to pressure individuals and companies to act responsibly and, more importantly, to act quickly about climate exchange. Thirdly, there's also been research into energy carried out in collaboration with current space missions. Already, NASA's space shuttles use hydrogen fuel to fuel its space trips, and the organization plans to make the upgrade to use hydrogen as its primary source of fuel even on land. And now we move to SpaceX. Off the bat, SpaceX has a huge challenge in front of it, competing with the well-established NASA, which also happens to have multinational reach. We're looking at a privately owned company whose entire existence rises and falls on cash flow, and it's daring to take on the massive venture of space exploration. That's huge. And if Musk isn't able to strike fat deals with the right people, then the future of his company could be in jeopardy. Already, most of the company's revenue so far comes from space launches, especially the launching of military and commercial satellites, which is proving to be a really successful venture for the company. It's also interesting to note that SpaceX, in spite of all odds, has remained a not-for-profit organization. Currently, SpaceX operates 2 rockets known as the Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy, which are basically used to transport people. There's also a reusable cargo spacecraft known as Dragon, which was launched into orbit by the Falcon 9. This cargo spacecraft has many significant benefits, chief of which is the fact that it can transport both crew and cargo. And both of these things are sensitive in that they won't do so well when in an environment that's far and apart from what they experience on land, in terms of air pressure and oxygen, for instance. Another type of vessel SpaceX has in its fleet is a Starship, which is able to carry vast amounts of payloads out of Earth and into space. The Starship was, in fact, designed to achieve Musk's grand vision of colonizing the Red Planet. SpaceX believes that one day the Starship will be able to move people to Mars so they can form a colony of inhabitants there. Now, besides SpaceX's aim to tap into resources humans have previously been able to access, the company has also other things it does. It recently launched its Starlink services, for instance. And Starlink refers to this collection of mass-produced satellites, small in size but massive in numbers. These satellites are supposed to help provide Earth with fast, low-latency internet access, even when found in the most remote places. Now, though their goals are different, SpaceX and NASA still share some form of interreliance. In fact, SpaceX plays a crucial role in NASA's operations. For instance, in 2011, the Space Shuttle program ended and NASA didn't have a replacement. Now, to build a separate company that would build the necessary fleet needed would have milked the organization dry. Hence, NASA decided on the better and more efficient idea, which was to rent. And of course, SpaceX came to the rescue. Since then, SpaceX has continued to make giant strides. The Dragon participated in the first ever commercial berthing ever to be had on the International Space Station. And this is the first time any company would interact with NASA's work in such a way. SpaceX also happens to be the first ever private space exploration company to send astronauts from NASA into the International Space Station. Initially, this work used to be done in-house at NASA. However, many achievements you think SpaceX was able to score, it owes most of its success to the hard work done by NASA. In 2006, the agency began seeking out private companies to outsource some of its work so it could run a less expensive, more efficient way to work. By doing this, NASA was able to fund roughly 50% of the development costs SpaceX incurred while building the Falcon 9. This Falcon 9 would turn out to be a windfall for both companies, when in 2008, NASA awarded Musk a multi-billion-dollar contract to move some cargo to the International Space Station. And the rocket used to complete the mission was the Falcon 9, which SpaceX had built a few years earlier. And now in 2021, much of SpaceX private revenue is funded by NASA. The truth is, the relationship between these two organizations is truly complex and can be quite difficult to explain. But you could think of it as a scratch my back and I'll scratch yours kind of arrangement. NASA and SpaceX have become so dependent on one another that at this point, it's almost 100% sure that none would be going anywhere anytime soon. In the future, both organizations would be extending their reach beyond low Earth orbit. They might have different goals, but they do share a common vision to reach out into outer space, where they can reach Mars. Besides, SpaceX has been recently selected to design a moon lander with which NASA would facilitate another moon landing in 2024 through the Artemis program. This collaboration is great because it means that processes are a little bit less expensive. We can fly into space more frequently, and then ultimately we can do more research. This will obviously help both companies achieve their separate individual goals. Arguably, the partnership between state-funded NASA and privately owned SpaceX is about the most important we've seen within the orbit of space history. And the vision is that it can only get better. Do you agree? Then let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Top Quick Week for more awesome content.